We're going to learn to use the UV editor, texture editor, to wrap these three different objects, but with the same material. So coming over to the side, I'm going to right click and get Perspective UV Texture Editor so I can see that window. I'm going to start with the sphere and select it, and if you need to open up this project, it is just the UV test. And then I'm going to add, for the surface, I'm going to make this a 9-ball, so I'm going to get the Phong E material. And when that opens up, I'm going to come over here to the color node, and I'm selecting the PSD file. And then I'm going into the file, and I'm going to navigate into wherever I've saved my UV map Photoshop document, and then select the object and hit 6 so I can see, or you can go over here to the shading and make sure hardware texturing is shown. Now if we zoom in here, you'll notice that we have all of this file under the materials showing, and you can kind of see the UV map is on here. Let's go over here and let's dim the image so we can see the UV maps a little easier. And we just want to make a 9-ball, so we only need this part right here. And to do that, we're going to use what we call a spherical UV. So over here under Create UVs, we're going to do spherical mapping. Select on that, and then we have these UV mapping tools. I prefer to come over here to the texture editor, and you can see that we have the scaling in different directions. We also have the rotation. So I'm going to start by scaling down to the right width, and then I'm going to squish it and then take the center of it and move that map up. And so you can see here that my image is showing up onto my sphere. Kind of find the midpoint and make sure it's centered. And then if I don't have enough, let's zoom in. And if it's going off a little too far, I might have to bring those UVs down and double check the top. Yep, make sure that it's white on the bottom and the top. Zoom out a little, swirl around, and inside. That looks good, and you can see it's kind of glossy, and so now I have the 9-ball wrap on that. I'm going to stretch it down a little bit more. Put that 9-ball at the heart of it, and that's that. So that is the spherical mapping. Now I'm going to grab the cylinder, and you can see we have the UVs over here, but to map it correctly, I'm going to come up here to Create UVs, and I'm going to go to cylindrical mapping. So now I have, undo that. Okay. Go to Object Mode, select the cylinder, and then come up to cylindrical mapping. But I'm also going to want to choose my material, which I forgot to do. So right click and drag down to Assign Assisting Material. There's my Phong. And so it pulls up my image again from my projection mapping. And I just want to get the Campbell's soup can onto that cylinder. So I'm going to take the scale down first until I see it get pretty close on the outer edges, and then scale it down, and so that all the UVs fit that Campbell's soup label. And come over here. Actually, I can hit F and get it centered on there. And this is not going to be too exact because we're not going to do like a can lip and top and everything. If we were really wanting it to look like a Campbell's can, then I would probably model it more accurately with the edges and so forth. The main point is getting it to wrap cylindrically around the cylinder with the UV. And you might want to adjust the edges of that image for the soup can there. It may not be completely level either, but let's see if we can line that up a little better. Nope, shifting it. That's fine for now. The main thing is that we're doing the cylindrical. So now we're going to move on to this guy over here. That's going to be more of a planar modeling. So I'm going to go back to Object Mode, and I'm going to select this object. You can see the UV maps there. So again, I'm going to assign this Phong material. And so I have that image here, but we can see that all of these polygons, the UVs, are a little different in the way they're aligned, and there's no good way for me to make this all fit. So we're going to come up here, and a lot of times when you have a plane or a cube, you would use planar mapping. But for this case, when we have so many different planes, I'm going to use automatic mapping. And what Maya does is it comes up with how many sides it's looking at to make this UV set, and this seems to be good enough. And then I'm going to go to my move tool and actually move all of those UVs off of the artwork completely. So I'm going to start with the front of my image, and so I'm going to start with face selection. So I select and hold shift, and as I activate the front, you see that right here are my UVs, and I'm going to move that over. Move this over a little bit here. Zoom in a little bit so we can see better. And then I'm going to also work on rotation. Line that up. Do some scaling again. And moving this up and over to get the face on there. And so now that head looks fine. So now we need to get the sides done. And I'm going to go select the faces. And if I zoom out here, you can see that they are nicely next to each other. So I'm going to move those over, bring them down into the blue, and bring them over. And all I have to do is scale it down so that it fits within the blue. I don't even need to worry about the rotation so much. And we can see that that's the solid blue. I'm going to do the same thing with the top. So as long as you're working with the faces that are right next to each other in a planar mode, it's pretty easy to align everything. Move that over, zoom in again, do the scale. Let's see, more blue over here. Now the top is blue. And oh, I forgot, for the side, let's grab those again. I didn't do it in the right area because I actually have that hand that I want. So move it over here, but notice it's in the wrong angle. So all I have to do is rotate that around. There we go, try to get it even. And then move it down a little bit. Center that arm. Continue quickly with this on all the other sides. Same procedure, and I can overlap UVs. Now I have that arm aligned, and the last one is the bottom of the box. I just have to worry about my leg, grabbing those faces. And if I zoom out, I see that they're over here. But what I also notice is, and now these I want to fit onto the green and white stripe for the socks. That up there. And then you can see where green and white striped socks. Now it looks like these two are off a little, and those are the ones we adjusted earlier. So I'm going to slide those down a bit to line up with the green stripe on the side. And looks like I'm going to have to take all of these, scale them down just a little, and move them up so that all the stripes line up. This might take a little. All right, there we have it. Now they're all lined up and equal. So now for the shoes, I have over here in the brown some little shoelaces that I quickly created. And zoom out, you can see that it's select it here, scale it, and I'm actually going to rotate it so that those shoestrings are more towards the front. And if I want the shoestrings to be more in the center, I can stretch this UV out. And move that so that it's in the center of that box. See the shoestrings there? And then if I want to select, to just select them around all the sides. I'll leave the bottoms to do later. Let's see. Yeah, you can see they're all kind of lined up in the same area. Bring that down. And scale it and move it so that it fits in just a brown area, that the shoe is just a solid brown. And then come down here just in case onto the base. Doing the same here with the bottom of the shoe, bringing it down, and scaling the UVs smaller, rotating them so that they fit on that brown space. And now I have a completely brown shoe, a nice green and white striped sock, and a nice box guy. So you can go ahead and do the same with this shoe as we did over here, and that is how you use one document as your UV mapping material for multiple objects in a project.